Hey, Peter. It's good to see you,
Welcome
my
to
friend.
Briarcliff.
So nice to see you.
Happy to have you.
Oh my goodness. So, I'm really excited about today. Your campaign told me that we would like to do this in chicken date format. And so my first question, I just want to put this out on the table. I'm not yet ready to commit to a candidate long term, but I really want to get to know you. And I think lots of folks in New York and across the district want to get to know you because they've heard a lot about you and they've seen you everywhere. So how has the campaign been going over the course of the past 3 months?
Campaign's been going great.
Yeah?
Campaigns are weird. They have a life.
Mm-hmm.
I was very nervous about getting in that it would be a long campaign and stressful on voters who would get exhausted. Some of that has already come true, but what I became aware of is that after the November election, things would really kick in. And I planned to sort of pace myself for that as the first big event. The November elections came and went, and I think we'll see another big event at the turn of the year.
Reintroducing yourself to some right now, like how is Peter Chatzky kind of the campaign change driver?
I've been involved in local government for about 20 years.
Yeah.
I've held elected office for 10 years. The 3-word summary of that job is listening, learning, and leading. Mm-hmm. And it turns out so much of a campaign is similar. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's listening and learning. That has been the first couple of months of this. It's going to continue throughout the campaign, but you sort of adjust to maybe what you think might be the big issues for people. You might have an idea. The more you listen, the more you learn. And I think the job at the end of the day is delivering solutions for the items people really care about. So that the first step is really understanding. I've been all over the district just listening to people and hearing their concerns.
And you've been mayor or deputy mayor for Briarcliff for how many decades?
I first got involved because I took on Donald Trump when he bought the golf course here, and I banded together with neighbors.
Yeah.
We fought his proposed plan. I think everyone in this quaint little village was a little nervous about seeing giant gold tees all over the place, and we were very careful about how the golf course would be developed. I led a campaign with my neighbors to present to the planning board. Mm-hmm. That's what got me elected to mayor. So it was interesting when I got back into government, it was to usher in a new generation of leadership here. I thought I had become an elder statesman in my knowledge of government, my knowledge of the village. And I thought I'll help usher in a new generation of leadership. Funny coincidence that it was the son of the mayor who replaced me that I began working with. He's been one of the best partners I've ever had in not only in government, in any kind of project where we're just trying to improve things and deliver solutions.
And how is that actually equipping you to serve in Congress, like the local experience, deep local experience in a village?
I think it's very much the same job, other than you're probably less effective on a national level where there's a lot more bickering. Here you're working with a smaller group, very similar job that you're coming up with ideas to improve people's lives, you're solving people's problems. There is less cajoling because you're cajoling just a group of 5 trustees and all the public. One of the things the board is so good at is discussing in advance where there's going to be pushback, anticipating those things, and making sure we have answers for them, making sure that you understand these are going to be the challenges, and make sure that you understand possible ways to overcome those challenges. It's very much the same in Congress. You're going to be working with different groups of people. You're going to have to be very convincing. You're going to have to be patient. And I think we have to get back to what is the job? And the job is, what are the needs of the people and how can you best solve them?
Yeah.
And if everyone stays focused on that and stops making war with each other just maybe for the sole purpose of interfering with progress, if we can get over that hurdle, I think we can restore government to something that's really representative and really functioning for American people.
So I think you're totally right that everyone is looking for a new generation, fresh voices, folks who are going to come into office and actually get stuff done, listening to their constituents, something that we've been lacking for a little bit right now. How are you that fresh voice? And that's a kind of a question that I know you've been asked again and again. And you are longtime public servant. How are you the fresh voice?
So I get accused of being a career politician because I have 20 years of community activity and I've been elected 5 different times.
Isn't that a part-time job though?
It is a voluntary job, 0 compensation other than knowing you're doing something good for your community. I bring the experience of actually working with people to deliver legislation, which I think is a big part of the job, which other candidates probably have other advantages, but not that one.
Yeah.
I have significant, I've written myself 70 local laws.
Yeah.
And I've gone through the process of building them and enacting them and solving problems. So that is a big differentiating factor. One of the things I will bring to the federal role is my understanding, my direct experience of how that federal role can benefit a small village. So you need not only money from the federal government to get projects done that are going to benefit larger communities, targeted communities, and whether that's infrastructure, water treatment, or sewer, these are big projects you need outside money. But you also need best practices, and that's something the federal government is involved in that people may not be aware of. You get the collective power of all these experts in the federal government and other projects that have been developed all over the country, and that's shared with you locally, and it can really help make sure that what you are delivering is done in the most effective way.
One of the things that comes up most frequently is it is just a grind for money. Like you are on the phone all the time calling people up. Did that dissuade you, or did that influence like how you were going to approach the race?
I think I was comparing this to charitable giving, which is tax deductible. I don't know how much that comes in. It is a weird thing to ask people when there's so many running to give up money, knowing that there's a possibility it will be thrown out the window, so to speak, right? That you may not go. I was surprised that people, showed up and were happy to go all in early on. It has been a challenge, I think, in 2 ways. I'm sure other candidates talk about this. We talk about it among ourselves. Most calls you make, the first thing you hear is, "Oh, I've heard from 6 others of you." Or 5 others, whatever. We're all competing for the same dollars in the same area, I think. That's a huge challenge. The bigger problem for me has been learning about the outsized influence of money in all sorts of ways, in the system itself. So there is a lot of pressure on candidates to show that, to use money as the barometer for your future success. The amount of emphasis at all stages of the party in looking at your fundraising numbers as the determinant of success is part of the problem in politics. I'm for massive campaign finance reform, because right now the system is set up only to attract wealthy candidates, people who have access to money, people who have a support system where they can put a year and a half of their life on hold. We're missing out on tremendous opportunity by not attracting people who might be genius at this and just don't have the resources. Matching money from the government, maybe shortening the length of campaigns, simple idea of capping the amount that any campaign is allowed to spend would take the emphasis out of money in this, which I think would help our democracy tremendously. And I'm not even talking about all the influence of money once you're elected, whole different set of problems. We could even address that earlier by saying let's have massive campaign finance reform.
So campaign finance reform, I hear, is one issue, and I hear that again and again and again as a big concern in this district, the outsized influence of millionaires and billionaires actually purchasing their politicians. You want to help fix that and go into Congress.
Listen, it's starting with the influence of outside money in campaigns, whether it's a candidate who is who's gathering tons of money from outside the district. I don't know how that helps our district. And then you get into office, you are beholden to people who got you there. It's far worse if you're in office and everything you're doing is skewed because you're focused on your next election and you're taking money from people and realizing that you're then beholden to those people. If you don't believe money is the root of all evil, it's certainly the root of all evil in politics, and we should really address it.
What other issues are you hearing across the district that you would put on your top priority list on day one in Congress?
So a lot relates to money, whether it's affordability, which is a huge issue for people, affordability as it relates to housing, utilities, healthcare. You keep hearing affordability, and even if you've paid off your mortgage and you're fine in your own home, you probably have kids who are dealing with the same affordability issues. As they look, you're probably co-signing leases, you're probably helping them out, even if they have great jobs. Affordability is a big issue. The other big issue for me is there is an imbalance of power among the three branches of government. And I think what you're seeing is a Supreme Court that lately has been twisting itself into pretzels to defend whims and policies of Donald Trump. I think Congress should absolutely be reining in the power of the Supreme Court.
Congress should be a check?
Check would be good, and and I guess to achieve a balance.
Yes.
So that's a great concept.
Yeah.
Check and balance.
Oh, wow.
We should patent
We
that.
have to write this
Trademark
down.
it, maybe trademark it. Or write it
The
down.
Chatzky Accords.
Checks and balances have to be restored. I think that there is an appetite for reining in the power of the Supreme Court. The use of the shadow docket has been unprecedented. So the Supreme Court is issuing decisions without the benefit of sunlight, without the benefit of public hearings, without hearing how they're thinking. There's no binding code of ethics for any of those Supreme Court members, which is unbelievable. The only court that doesn't really have to abide. There's no penalty for not abiding by a code of ethics. I speak all the time about how the Constitution provides for lifelong appointments of Supreme Court members. It was written at a time when the average life expectancy of an adult male was 35 years old. I don't think any of the founders envisioned SCOTUS members serving 30-year terms into their 80s and 90s that are going to have such a long-lasting impact on
So do you believe in term limits for the Supreme Court and for Congress?
I definitely for both. And look, I get, because I've been in government, I get the value of institutional knowledge. So much of government institutional knowledge comes from the deep bench of people who work within the government system. And one of the things I understood right away was the tremendous loss when Trump came in and decimated full departments. Because it's the people who are actually implementing policies who not only understand the real ramifications of these, they become another check and balance, and they provide information back to legislators saying, hey, by the way, before you make this change in law, our experience has been whatever. That's a very valuable thing and a terrible thing to lose. So I do think, on the other hand, there's evidence of this, many people staying in office way past their prime, and I think we need to be constantly working in this country to encourage young people to get involved. It's their future, and that turnover would probably be very healthy for our democratic system.
So I can't not talk about healthcare. You wrote, and you can't also not talk about healthcare. You put an op-ed out a few months back calling for universal healthcare. But I also hear from you a real pragmatic sense of governance. Like sometimes it's not doing everything all at once, it's building towards the ultimate solution. How do you reconcile those things, and how do you think we can fix our healthcare system that isn't serving Americans?
I've been saying more and more frequently, I'm a pragmatic progressive. I have very progressive ideas, but all my experience in government has taught me that, and I'm sorry there's no good way to say this without mixing a sports metaphor, but that makes it more memorable. I will take singles over home runs anytime, as long as we're moving the ball down the field.
Oh no.
Sorry for that. But listen, you're going to remember it. If you make smaller steps toward progress, you fly a little under the radar, but you're moving in the right direction and getting things done. With healthcare in particular, I probably have shared this with you, but not everyone who's listening. It's a very personal thing for me. My son, Jake, when he was born, 2 days old, they detected a heart murmur that led to a series of open heart surgeries. I should say he's 31, perfectly healthy, thriving,
quite
doing
famous.
Great. Getting a bit of fame as Jets Jake on the New Heights podcast. Am I allowed to plug another podcast?
It's your family. This is
New Heights, kind of a big deal. He hangs out with the Kelsey brothers. He hangs out with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It's really great. Jake, though, his childhood was open heart surgeries every couple of years. And the first surgery he was 3 weeks old. We had great coverage. It was my own coverage because I had always provided my employees with very good coverage. We had to fight with an insurance company to make sure it was okay to get him the surgery at the best hospital in the area, which was in Boston at the time. We took him to Boston Children's. We had to get permission for a surgery that, had he not have, there's no chance he'd be alive. I mean, it was desperately needed surgery, and yet no parent should go through this. We're paying premiums for healthcare, and there's a debate about whether this is covered or not. Is crazy. Obama was completely right when he identified the way you bring prices down, the way you bring the cost of insurance down, is by getting more people into the system. And I completely believe this. The other thing I'd like to point out is especially Republicans who talk about the failure of ACA, and they point to ACA.
Our congressman almost every day is now pointing to ACA because they're going to try to make healthcare their issue somehow.
And it's not Obama's vision of ACA. They have successfully decimated all the key components that had to work together, whether that's the mandate, whether that is the removal of lifetime caps on coverage, whether it is what has to be provided as the basic insurance coverage points. You can't take all those things away and then say, oh look, Obama's plan is failing. They've had a strategy to make it fail.
Yeah, well, they've been poking holes in the tires of this car. They've been taking out the spark plugs and being like, why isn't this car working? We need to try it our way, as opposed to actually investing in a healthcare system that serves all Americans.
That's ridiculous.
Housing affordability. It's something, I know that you're on a district-wide affordability tour. Housing is an issue that you've gotten really smart on, and what if you were in Congress on day one, what would you do as a federal legislator to improve housing availability?
There are small things that can be done and much larger things that can be done. Basically, the problem, it's well documented, we have a shortage of housing units countrywide, 4.7 million. It's a huge number. We have to start making some changes. 75% of all residential property in this country is zoned for single family housing. It's the American dream. Everybody gets a house, a white picket fence. You know, those of us who live in single family homes know the white picket fence starts to crumble. It's expensive maintenance. It causes environmental issues. There's so much wrong. It causes segregation in our community. It is an inequitable system. We need much more diversity of housing stock in our country. And we've seen it here in Briarcliff. This is something we're trying to implement now. We recognize that the affordability issue doesn't work if every house is out of reach. So if neighborhoods start having not just single family homes, but also studio apartments for rent, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, that gives a lower point of entry for first time buyers. It also, by building townhouses, smaller homes, 2-bedroom homes, long-time residents who are empty nesters can step down and stay in their communities without moving many states away, giving up their friends, their families, their plumber. In my case, it took 3 plumbers till I found a great plumber, not to mention doctors. You don't want to have to move so far away. And diversity of housing stock rebuilds communities like that. It's very effective. The federal government can provide financial incentives to encourage that. They can provide best practices to explain to communities why that's important. Most importantly, in many areas you see housing spread out because everybody's on septic. They physically have to be separated. There are major environmental issues. The federal government has the financial resources to help implement sewer systems and roadways. There are plenty of areas when you have 4.7 million shortage of housing where the federal government should get involved and say, let's help this community build out. It's better for everybody.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, but I can't not
what
talk.
What happens in a couple of minutes?
Well, I think
they kick us out.
It's over.
This place. Briarcliff, it's one problem, the hours of operation of businesses. We got to change that.
So we can't not talk about the congressman in the room. So, comrade, what do you think Mr. Mike Lawler is not doing well and should be held accountable for?
Well, let's go back to those three things I mentioned once or twice already. Listening, learning, leadership. No. He does the other L really well. He's a liar. And he is challenging to run against because he lies with a vengeance, right? He says whatever he wants to say. No one's fact-checking him.
And he's very articulate in how he does it.
Articulate, but is he benefiting our communities here in District 17? Is he, as he says, completely the most nonpartisan? I forget how he phrases this, but he's not.
Yeah.
He has voted on Trump's agenda, for Trump's agenda, every single opportunity he's had. I think he is tethered to Donald Trump, right down to, Daddy, would it be okay if I run for governor? No. Okay, I'll stay here.
It was so sad. I'm sorry.
Did you feel
you deserve better?
You felt bad for him?
I mean, like on national TV.
I don't understand, though, how his loss becomes our problem. And we're stuck with him now? I would have been stuck with him either way.
Well, he doesn't seem to really even want to be in the district. I mean, like for so many of the Republicans who lost a couple of weeks ago in this year's elections, he was actually campaigning pretty frequently out in New Jersey.
Good point, because New Jersey was like the sister community or whatever they called it. Listen, he is so clearly not who he wants to present himself to be, and I think that if voters in our district want to see all the Trump administration policies continue, whether the tariff, which I call taxes, or ICE, which I call hoodlums, if they want to see all these things continue, they're going to vote for Mike Lawler because he's just carrying out Trump's agenda. If they want change, if they think he's not doing a good job, if they want to see real representation, I think most of the Democrats running today would beat him because he'll lose his own race. I truly believe that. My campaign has been focused on speaking not just platitudes, but actual deliverable goals. And that's what I want to focus on.
So to close up our date, I have a couple of questions I just want to put out on the table. If you could choose anyone, who would play you on SNL?
If it were up to me, I would play myself on SNL because, first of all, I could use the publicity. I could use getting my name out there more. I want people to see me. I'm very good on my feet. I'm very good ad-libbing. I think I could do that job.
Okay, so there you go.
I also like to be the musical guest. I'm not very musical, but I can figure it out.
You could double. There are a select few.
That's the learning part, listening, learning, legislating, leadership, whatever. Pick a word.
Where was your first date with Susan?
We have two different versions of this. Technically, we met when I was not looking to meet anyone. We were both invited to a lunch with mutual friends. She showed up with her then boyfriend. She calls that our first meeting. We first got together as friends to walk our dogs together. And I might have. She took off her watch and I put it in my pocket, and then I called her that night and said, "Oh, you left your watch at my house, and we should get together again." That was the beginning. And my kids met her, and my kids said, "You should date her. She's perfect." So leave it to youth. They kind of knew. We like to tell the story. Our kids fell in love before we did. I don't know if that's true. I fell in love pretty quickly, but it's a nice story.
Favorite snack at 9 p.m.?
Lately, it has been the ice cream. I think it's called Rebel, which is like 1 gram of sugar in a pint, which means 1 gram of sugar in a serving to me. I'm on this new low sugar kick, which I know is amazing, but I started off the campaign sugar, 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 and my energy was like this, and I realized going off sugar, my energy is like high all day, so I'm a fan of that.
Favorite thing about the campaign?
Meeting people. I love the meeting people part, talking to people. Actually, that by far is my favorite part.
Well, it's been one of my favorite parts of the campaign to meet like the candidates, including you. Peter, I'm so glad that you're running. You represent a unique perspective in the field and a fresh voice in the field. And thank you for taking time out of your life to do this public service and really put yourself out there.
You're very welcome. It has been my pleasure so far, and I've enjoyed meeting you too, by the way. You're one of the people.
Maybe we'll do another date sometime.
We're gonna hang out sometime.
It's good to see you.
Thanks for coming to Briarcliff.
Of course.